part of the piano now. this one so she must have been feeling
Waking up?
I feel like he has twice as much hair as last time I saw him. Yeah.
2 days later, she's in hospice. 3 days and 3 days after.
Just taking it all in.
It's just metastasized. Well, volunteering. So I don't know whether she was Oh yeah, I don't know if it was. I mean, it could have been once. Yeah. But she's just like a nice little person. It's just such a wonderful thing. It's just a very good show.
You might have just said,
As a happy, serious,
Good morning. My name is Bret Newbury, and I am one of a team of worship associates that have the honor to welcome you here today and of serving South Church along with our settled minister, Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, and Director of Lifespan Ministry, Kirsten Hunter, and all of the wonderful behind-the-scenes and office staff that make worship services possible. Thank you for joining us this Sunday morning, whether you are visiting South Church for the first time, are returning after an absence, attend as often as possible, or are viewing services online. Know that you are welcome. Please join us downstairs after worship for fellowship and discussion. Assisted listening devices are available in the back of the sanctuary. The time for all ages today is offered by Kirsten Hunter. After the children's story this morning, all kids are welcome to attend our amazing religious education classes downstairs. The music is graciously offered today by Nick Manilia, Josh Gagnon, Nathan Therian, Susan Adams, and Jonny Peiffer. And now is the time for some announcements, followed by a testimonial by Mike McGrail.
Good morning. My name is Kirsten Hunter. I am the Director of Lifespan Ministries here at South Church. I'm so happy to see all of you here this morning. I have a couple announcements for us, and one of them is just an invitation on the back table as you leave the building this morning. If you go out through the main doors, there's some COVID tests. They were donated to the church from Star Island, left over from Star Island. And this is just sort of a reminder, there's a lot going around, including COVID still. These are expiring this month, but if you're going to a holiday party or anywhere, it's not a bad idea to just test. So feel free to grab one, continue to test ourselves, try and do everything we can to keep down the spread of COVID in our community. There's also always masks on the back table as well, so feel free to take one of those when you come in the mornings if you feel comfortable or more comfortable doing so. And related to that a little bit, we have a Vespers service coming up this Thursday, December 15th, and it will be a fully masked event. So for anyone who maybe is watching from home and has been holding off on coming to service because of concern, there will be a masked Vespers service happening this Thursday. It's a really lovely time in the sanctuary, winter Vespers, because it's dark. We don't get to be here in the dark as often. So take a look in your order of service for information about that solstice Vespers service. There is today another week of the high school youth fundraiser downstairs. They're selling fair trade coffee and chocolate, as well as a social justice book sale that they're hosting. Great holiday gifts abound, and you will be supporting their service learning journey to Alabama this coming June. And also, there is an adult journey to Alabama happening in March. And there's information about that on the website. It didn't make it into the order of service, but if you go to southchurchuu.org, you can read about the Alabama learning journey for either adults or high school youth, which are both happening in 2023. And I'd like to invite Megan up for one more announcement.
Hi, I'm Megan Harris, and this is Sarah Showman on behalf of the Holiday Decorating Committee. We're inviting you to please consider helping us defray the costs to make our sanctuary as beautiful as it is. It costs a couple of dollars to buy these beautiful greens and poinsettias, and we'd love for your contributions to help us with this. You can do that in honor of someone or to memorialize someone that you know, and that listing will be listed in the order of service on Christmas Eve. So please consider memorializing someone or honoring someone in our community or outside this church community by helping us cover these costs. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks. I love the mess that is South Church. And I use the word mess with deep affection and gratitude because to me, our kaleidoscope of beliefs, opinions, theologies, philosophies, spiritualities, covenants, agreements, disagreements, contradictions, and inquisitions is a monument to the courage to not know, the humility to realize when we're wrong and look for a better way, and to move together, and to step down our own spiritual paths, yet somehow do it together. The South Church mess is my refuge from society's obsession with the easy comfort of binaries and the narcotic of easy answers. 0 or 1, yes or no, black or white, right or wrong, Christian or not. I started coming to South Church when I was a 27-year-old collapsed Catholic and an intractable cynic. I was pursuing a belief that I had developed but didn't know how to realize, that a life can't be complete unless it has a spiritual dimension. But what spirituality? The written in Sharpie certainty of the Catholicism I grew up with? No, thank you. Everywhere around me, I looked and just saw more of the same. It was just wearing different drag. All with certainty, supreme confidence that they had the one shining truth, the magical set of rules. Line up right here, please. I decided that religion and I needed to see other people. Then I found the wonderful, happy mess that loved the word why, that wasn't afraid of I don't know, that seemed to have a committee for everything, that debated and analyzed and backtracked and retracked and sometimes even made a decision, that examined and re-examined its beliefs, where the kids were part of the service but also had their own place to learn, to have their own minds, and not just be part of a group think. Where my own daughter could talk about her dad and his husband, her bonus dad as she calls him, without being an outlier. Where people come when they don't know where else to go because they know they're welcome if they follow one simple principle: be kind to each other. Every year I pledge as much as I can to South Church, and I'm figuring out what I can swing in the coming year. I make sure I wince just a little bit. That's my way of knowing I'm doing as much as I can. Please do what you can by making your annual budget campaign pledge, because the world needs South Church and places like it, where uncertainty is a virtue, questioning is celebrated, and we're all walking down our own paths to our own music, yet somehow doing it together.
Mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the mystery of the hour.
As we light our chalice here, we invite people watching at home to light a candle or chalice of their own. We light this chalice today with these words from Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Sorry, I mispronounced that. Tutu. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. And now is the time to light the Advent candles.
Part of my ministry is acknowledging human imperfection, and today I want to acknowledge my own. Last week I lit the Advent candles, and I did it in the wrong order. But it's very important to me to honor the integrity of all faiths. So today I wanted to acknowledge that mistake. And do it correctly today.
We light these candles with these words from Reverend Theresa Ninian Soto. Light now the Advent candle one. The work of waiting has begun. A single flame now shining bright beams hope through the long stretch of night. Light now the Advent candle too, since love is bringing something new, a baby to a family, and miracles for you and me. Light now the Advent candle 3, and people happy songs employ. We light a pink one on this day to signify the light of joy. Now please stand as you are able to join me in reciting the mission statement printed in your order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people and inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. The holiday season is upon us. It is time for family, friends, and fun. And as I say that out loud, I realize for alliteration as well. It is also a time for renewal of faith with many celebrations from many faith traditions. It is also a time when we need our faith to see us through the darkness of the season. Faith has a way of seeing us through darkness, through times when things do not seem right. For instance, several years ago, my faith and my values saw me through a troubling experience with some people making highly inappropriate comments. I will not repeat what they said, but suffice it to say that they reeked of racism with a mix of misogyny and ill-informed political discourse. So there I was, standing in a group of people who were all in agreement, some of them chuckling at these awful things. I spoke up. I called them out on the racist part as it was the biggest piece, and got told that racism no longer existed in this country, that we had solved it in the 60s. I tried, but to no avail, to point out that racism is still very much alive, pointing out specific examples. I did not even budge the needle. These people's words stuck with me. I had sorrow and outrage in equal measures at the fact that people still thought this way in the modern world. But I stood my ground, despite not changing minds, and refused to be browbeaten into saying that I was in the wrong. I stood by my faith in the inherent worth and dignity of all people, and that faith saw me through the darkness. I knew, and still know, in my heart, that prejudice needs to be called out for what it is, as the first step to ending it. My faith allows nothing less. And now, please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, This Little Light of Mine, number 118 in the Gray Hymnal.
Okay. I would love to invite anyone who would like to come a little closer for our Time for All Ages. You're welcome to do so, no pressure. I have an interesting story to tell you about something magical that happened to me a couple weeks ago. I was in my house and I heard a very faint knock on the door. It was almost nothing, except I have a dog, and even the faintest of knocks make her go, hmm? And she started to bark. She's a Great Dane, so her barks sound like, woof, woof. And she made these loud noises, and it was that particular bark, I recognized it, that someone was at the door. And I went to the door, only no one was there. But laying on my stoop was this. And I looked at it and I went, what is this? And when I shook it, the eyes moved around. And I thought, well, what on earth? Did this knock on my door? I showed it to my dog.
No.
You don't think so? Well, I don't know where it came from. I showed it to my dog. She wanted to chew it. She really likes sticks. She really likes cardboard. I think she's interested in Google Eyes too, but I decided not to let her chew it. I held it back from her. And I just kind of held it for a while. Anyway, I didn't know what it was for, and I felt a little bit like, this is mysterious. And I was walking around my house, and I bumped into my refrigerator with the very edge of it. And then I looked at the refrigerator, and all of a sudden I thought to myself, whoa, that thing's really amazing. Inside that box, in my house, is food that stays cold enough that it doesn't go bad for a really long time. And I can open it anytime I want, but I really shouldn't open it all the time over and over again, right? But I can open it anytime I want and reach inside and get something cold and delicious. Wow, that's a really amazing thing in my life. And I looked at the refrigerator and I just thought, wow, that's wild. This kind of feeling just came out of nowhere. And I'm still holding this strange thing that showed up on my front stoop, and I went and I sat down and I put it down on the coffee table. It laid on a book that was on my coffee table, and then I looked at the book and I thought to myself, whoa, books are amazing. Books are a whole bunch of pages of ideas that you can pick up. And then the person who wrote the book, all of their ideas get shared with you. And they spark new ideas. And I thought, this is really incredible. Books are unbelievable. And I've always loved books, but I felt a special new love for the book. And then I looked at this again and I thought to myself, I wonder if this has a special power, because it is helping me appreciate things in a new way. And so then I started to on purpose touch it to things. And guess what? This thing is magic. This thing is, I'm not sure what it's supposed to be called, but I call it a wonder wand. And when I touch it to things, it helps me wonder in new ways about those things. Would you like to try it with me? Wonder wand. I'm going to touch it to this candle. You know, fire is really amazing. And we have these amazing inventions called candles, and they hold on to fire so it can wait for us when we need it to light a fire to something else. And it also just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, especially this time of year. Candles are really neat. Do you see all the ideas, the wonder that can come from touching anything? Do you want to try touching something else? Let's touch it to Jen Del Deo. Can anyone think of anything wonderful about Jen Del Deo? What's something Tom Barry? Tom Barry's a little bit flushed on his cheeks. Those wonderful thoughts really came to him. What else is wonderful?
She's silly.
She's silly. That is really wonderful. What else, Claire?
She's silly.
She's doubly silly. Let's try one more thing. What else should we wonder about? Who has an idea? Yeah. What should we wonder about? What do you want me to touch it to? What about... Okay, let's touch it to a rope. Oh, ropes. Yeah, ropes are really wonderful. Who can think of something wonderful about rope? What does it help us do? Yeah, what?
Maybe a long time ago
Balance beams. You need a rope for a balance beam.
And like the kind of horse thing is made out of ropes.
Yeah, ropes helped us use horses for transportation. That was super important in our history and still today, right? We use ropes in boats. We use ropes all over the place. We have tiny little ropes that hold our shoes together. Shoes are really wonderful too. Yeah. Cowboys need ropes, that's for sure. Yeah, ropes are wonderful. Wow. Yes.
I think I wondered another thing.
You want to try another one? We should touch it to Claire.
No, Claire's.
To her name tag.
Oh.
Wow, name tags are wonderful. I know that guy's name is Bob, and that's Declan right there, and there's Martha, and wow, I feel so much more connected to people because they're wearing name tags. Oh my gosh, wonder. Wonder can be everywhere, and I bet you don't even need a magic wonder wand to experience wonder, but it sure does help. And I've been enjoying it for the last couple weeks. We're going to make some wonder wands today, but I want to tell you something else about wonder, because the thing about wonder is that when you spend time wondering, when you spend time going, whoa, yeah, that is amazing, it makes you feel connected to the rest of the world. And when you feel connected to the rest of the world, it makes it easier to do hard things that take a lot of work and time. And so wonder is a really important part of being a Unitarian Universalist, because we try to do hard things in this room, in this community. We try to build a better world, and that takes a lot of work. So please make sure you are taking time to wonder, because it helps. And that is our time for all ages today. And I'm going to sing a song with some help from the rest of the people in the room. And if you want, you can wonder yourselves right downstairs.
It is now time for the offering. Time for us to help support all the good work and programs of this church. Donations may be made in person, online, by mailing a check to the 73 Court Street offices, or using the Venco app. During the month of December, our collection will be shared with the National Alliance for Mental Illness, New Hampshire. NAMI New Hampshire is a grassroots organization working to improve the quality of life for all by providing support, education, and advocacy for people affected by mental illness and suicide. Please give as you are able. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Let us gather our hearts and minds in a spirit of meditation or prayer with these words by Reverend Victoria Weinstein. Spirit of life and love, we have gathered here out of our separateness to remember that we are not alone. In our fears, we are not alone. In our searching for peace and finding it in fleeting moments, we are not alone. In our wonderings, is this all there is? Is this the best we can do? We are not alone. In our pain, we are not alone. We dwell in you, Spirit of healing and wholeness, for this brief time, willing to be held here in an immense and eternal love, whose origins we do not know, whose reality is irresistible and calls us on. It reaches between us to fill spaces. It consoles the grieving and calms the anxious. It opens the ear to deeper truth and makes a place in the heart as hope. Let us rest in this peace and be held there. Amen. In this restful space we have created, I invite you to honor your personal joys and sorrows publicly with the lighting of candles. If you would like to participate, please come forward and light a candle at one of the 2 lighting bowls on the left or the right of the sanctuary as the music begins. And please remember, as always, if you are going through a difficult time, I am here, as are your pastoral associates. If you need us, please fill out a card in your pew and place it in the basket in one of the tables, or come find me, or email one of us after the service. We are here for you. I now invite you to light a candle of joy or sorrow that is in you today. Those of you who read your order of service may be wondering, what on earth is she going to say about Santa? Well, here you go. When Ophelia Eisenberg was a little girl, she discovered that being Jewish at Christmas time had some challenges. Because, as she eloquently put it, Christmas is amazing, and Hanukkah was not. She said it more emphatically. She recalls reading about the after-school Christmas craft at a Catholic school. They were making gingerbread houses, and it was accompanied by a photo of kids with frosting bags hanging out of their mouths and huge grins on their faces. Around the same time, the kids at a Hebrew school also had a special activity just for Hanukkah. They were reliving the story behind that holiday by pressing oil. That was what their craft was, pressing oil. Ophelia was not impressed by this. Instead, she was obsessed with Santa. She would spend the whole of the Christmas season pining to go into Santa's castle at the mall. She knew Santa brought presents to kids. She didn't know how he did it. She just knew she wanted that. And her mom did not. We're Jewish, she would say. Moses brings us presents. He comes down the mountain with a sack full of menorahs and dreidels. Even at her tender young age, Ophelia did not buy that. Instead, she made a plan. She knew that if she threw a huge temper tantrum at the mall while shouting, "I want to go see Santa," her mother would have to let her go, or she would look like the worst parent ever. It worked. She got in line. But she didn't want to say anything because now she was an undercover Christian and she didn't want to blow it. Just be quiet and focus on what you want, she said to herself. And what she wanted was a Barbie dream house. So she just kept repeating, Barbie dream house. That's all you have to say. Barbie dream house, Barbie dream house, Barbie dream house. Finally, an elf ushered her in. She got onto Santa's lap, and he asked her that question she had been waiting for. What would you like for Christmas, little girl? The best question. She looked up at him and said, I'm Jewish. I know, she said, I fell apart. I couldn't handle it. I totally went off script. But then Santa said, that's okay, so am I. I didn't know what to do with that information, Ophelia said, so I just kept repeating, Santa's Jewish, Santa's Jewish, Santa's Jewish. And kids started crying, and the elves pushed her out of the castle, and she ran out to her mother, who was witnessing this chaos. Her mom asked what was going on, and she said, Mom, you would not believe what I just found out. Santa is Jewish. And her mom responded without missing a beat, of course he is. Who else do you think works on Christmas? Christmas and Hanukkah, Hanukkah and Christmas, they both happen around this time of year. Hanukkah starts next Sunday night. Christmas happens the Saturday after that. Hanukkah and Christmas have an interesting relationship. Christmas is a big and important holiday for Christians and many non-Christians. Hanukkah is a minor holiday for Jews. Christmas, you could say, is about the birth of a religion. The story of Hanukkah, you could say, is about protecting the integrity of a religion that had been born long before. And Christmas, Christianity, was born from Judaism. It's easy to forget that. Judaism came first. Jesus himself was Jewish. Hanukkah has grown in significance only because of its nearness to Christmas, and still, while Hanukkah itself may not inherently be that important, Jewish people are. Their story, the story of their faith, is part of the backstory of our UU faith, and it has something to teach us about what it means to be human, about what it means to live one's faith, about what it means to be committed to your religious values, even when it's hard. And it's hard when who you're called to be or how you're called to live is different from what the mainstream culture would have you be or do. So let's travel back in time. It's 167 BCE, we're in Judea, in Jerusalem, where the story of Hanukkah happened. Basically, something like this. The Greeks have taken over, they are in charge, they are the mainstream, and they've got some culture. Let's call it the 2nd century BCE version of gingerbread houses, mall Santas, and Barbie dream houses. Pretty appealing to many. Jews, as well as Greeks, were buying in. But there were also Jews who were not buying in, who did not assimilate, who did not like this new culture, which made the Greek ruler in charge, Antiochus IV, very nervous. And he, like so many tyrants throughout history, began seeing these nonconformists as a threat to his power. So he started pushing and oppressing and disrespecting and defiling. He tried to abolish the Jewish way of life. But he pushed too far, and some of the Jews, the Maccabees, pushed back. They fought back. It was bloody, it was ugly, but they won against all odds. They won back their temple. They won back their right to practice their faith as they felt called. And it was a moment. The Jewish people had been pushed to make a conscious choice. This is who we are. This is who we are not. This is what we agree with in Greek culture. This is how we stand apart, how we think different, how we act different. These are our practices, and this is the God we hold dear, our God of justice and mercy and love. I can't help but wonder how much of that uniquely Jewish think different, see different, act different setting fueled nearly 2 centuries later Jesus's nonconformist, countercultural, revolutionary ideas. And I can't help but recognize, reviewing the long and awful history of anti-Semitism, that standing apart is not just hard, it can be extraordinarily perilous. And yet, as I once heard it said, while the history of the Jewish people is one of repeated persecution, the more important story is one of their repeated, miraculous resilience in the face of that. I wonder how they did it. I think it has something to do with the practices that set them apart, but also what those practices may have opened up for them, something deeper, something sustaining, something perhaps we can learn from. More than one commentator has remarked that when the rabbis crafted Hanukkah, nearly 800 years after that Maccabean revolt, they did not focus on the victory, nor on the violence, nor on the rebellion itself. Instead, they focused on the holy, the spirit, the miracle, the light. They told the story of the oil. There wasn't enough consecrated oil for the 8-day festival to rededicate the temple. There was just enough for one day. But the people of that time didn't go around those requirements. They didn't try to use some other oil. They didn't cheat or lie or fudge things to make it work. They just did what they could with just what they had in the name of their God, just for one day. And here is the miracle that I see in that metaphor. It was enough. Live today with mindful integrity, even in the smallest ways, and there may well be a fresh, unexpected light in the morning. I picture those early Jews lighting the menorah in their ceremony, their rededication ceremony, pushing back the shadows of the threats they had faced. I imagine the flame beginning to burn away the vestiges of their trauma, the light illuminating each other's faces so they could see they weren't alone. It was a time for slowing down and taking time and connecting with the moment and each other. And this was the holiday the rabbis enshrined, one of many practices of Jewish faith that could open windows and doors in the mind and the heart to deeper truths about who humans are at core, reminding them of how they would want to live in the world. And living this way wasn't just what they did, it was who they were. And I wonder whether that commitment, that identity, and that opening to fresh, ongoing light and truth has been fuel for their resilience as a people. I wonder for any of us, for any of you, what your window to the holy or to your true nature is for you. I believe that religions, practices of faith are at best about opening windows and doors to something more, something beyond the small, isolated self, to other people, to greater wisdom or love and justice. And the more we practice, the more that faith can grow. The more faith grows, the more it finds expression, even when it's hard. As the process continues, the more dynamic, light-filled, on fire, and ignited we can become, connecting to who we are, what really matters, and how we want to live in the world. Our modern mainstream culture has so much that is beautiful, and there is so much that is hard. We have our tyrants. We have people dominating others, controlling, manipulating, using the same scapegoating playbook against not just Jewish people, but also GLBQT plus people, Asian people, Black people, anyone they can target to divide and gain power. We have big problems to solve, yet our culture is full of distractions and manipulations, as well as resignation and complacency. And we are all vulnerable to giving in. But as Unitarian Universalists, we have our own history of thinking and acting different. And we, too, in this moment, in any moment, can stand apart, make a conscious choice, and renew our faith in big, bold, denomination-wide ways, like recrafting our principles and sources for a new era. In smaller, personal ways, like living our first principle by speaking out against racism, by lighting a chalice at home to reconnect with our UU values at meals, by being intentionally mindful, by meditation, by joining a covenant group, or bringing our gifts, our service to this place or beyond it. Like at the coming of age class, who made food for local shelters just last Sunday, there we were in laughter and conversation with purpose and kindness, burning away complacency with action, resignation with laughter, and fueling our faith with warmth. Lighting up truth in ourselves, we are people who care. We're in it together, and we can remember if we live today with care, there may be more possible tomorrow than we can yet see. I want to end with a story I read as I was researching for this sermon. It struck me so much, I wanted to share it with you. It's about Rabbi Mordecai Chanson, better known as Model, who was repeatedly arrested for his counter-revolutionary, quote, activities as he was preserving the flame of Judaism in the Soviet Union. He found himself behind bars off and on for 21 years. Among his many experiences, there was one story he would tell again and again, which happened during World War II. Hanukkah was coming, and the question of lighting the menorah bothered Model deeply. He knew lighting the menorah would entail serious risks, but he was determined to fulfill the mitzvah. He shared his thoughts with a band of young Jewish men, and they agreed. One volunteered to prepare wicks from old clothing, a second volunteered to fashion a makeshift menorah, and a third arranged to obtain margarine, which would stand in for oil. In the middle of the night, in a small garden shed, the men crowded around. Rabbi Mordecai was honored to light the first candle. They gazed at the small flame in the menorah that lit up each other's faces and listened to Rabbi Mordecai's emotional voice as he recited the first blessing. Suddenly, there was a noise and screaming. Guards rushed in, grabbed the participants, handcuffed them, and hauled them to a prison cell. A trial was held in the camp. The group was brought into a room with a severe-looking judge. Being the initiator, Reb Mordecai predicted his indictment and waited. "This is an act of treason," said the prosecutor. "You lit candles to signal enemy forces. The penalty is death." This Model did not expect. The judge turned to him. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Model asked the judge, "Is this accusation being made against just me or against all of us?" "You are all counter-revolutionaries," came the response. "You will all bear the consequences together." Rabbi Mordecai couldn't contain himself. He couldn't bear the thought that he was responsible for these young men's deaths. He began to weep. It was as if many years of suffering finally came out. The judge watched him silently, and after several minutes, he called Motel over and asked him a second time, "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Rabbi Mordecai gathered his courage and spoke his truth. "We are Jews. We wanted to fulfill our religious obligation to light the menorah on Hanukkah." The severe face of the judge seemed to change a bit. He got out of his seat and began pacing the room. He seemed agitated, and suddenly he asked the guards to leave. "You lit Hanukkah candles? You lit Hanukkah candles?" The judge was repeating to himself, clearly unsettled. "Do you know how to light Hanukkah candles?" he said. "Here, I'll show you how to light them." And Reb Mordecai watched as the judge lit a small lamp. He picked up the incriminating documents gingerly and slid the first one off and held it to the flame. The paper caught fire and disappeared. He did the same with the next, and the next, and the next. Within a few minutes, they were nothing but ashes. The judge reached for the buzzer on his table and summoned the guards. "Take this group of 18 men," he commanded, "and separate them permanently. There's no point in killing them. They are not worth even one bullet." As the room emptied out, the judge got up to leave and passed by Rabbi Mordecai. He bent toward him and said in a choked, whispered voice, "I am also a Jew. I ask of you one thing. Tell the future generations how to light the Hanukkah candles." Lynn Unger writes, "Be bold. Declare victory, even when the temple is wrecked and the tyrants have not retreated. Only coiled back like a snake, prepared to strike again. Come down. Try to remember a life gentled by daily acts of domestic faith. Unlearn years of hiding, light fires that can be seen for miles. Set lamps in the window. Declare your presence, your loyalties, the truths for which you do not expect to have to die. It would take a miracle, you say, to carve such a solid life out of the shell of fear. I say, you are the stuff from which such miracles are made. Let us join together in our closing hymn. It is number 221 rather. Light one candle. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their light
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction is adapted from words by Reverend Ken Peiffer. May the light of truth lead us to new understanding. May the light of courage enable us to do what is right. May the light of freedom burn freely in our hearts. And may the light of faith sustain our strength, that we may become the dynamic, ignited, light-filled, on-fire people we can one day become. We are the stuff from which such miracles are made. Amen. Go in peace.